She texted "need space," whined about me to her boss, and thought I'd beg. Instead, I sold everything, emptied our accounts, and disappeared to Lisbon, Portugal. Her best friend became my spy. Her lover's son started blackmailing him, and I had a secret Swiss account worth 400,000 euros she never knew existed. Maybe I could have prevented it if I'd paid more attention to her sudden interest in weekend wellness retreats, or the way she started dressing differently for work meetings. Perhaps if I'd questioned why she needed so many business dinners with her new boss, Julian Moreau, a divorced smooth talker from Paris who wore expensive suits and drove a Tesla like he was compensating for something. My name is Elias Croft, but everyone calls me Eli. I'm 59 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I owned a successful bespoke architecture and building firm in Dublin. We built custom homes for wealthy tech executives who moved here seeking that mix of city life and quiet charm. My wife, Anya, ran a boutique PR firm downtown, the kind of place where they served organic matcha in the break room and had motivational quotes painted on the walls. We lived in a restored Georgian townhouse I'd renovated myself, complete with original sash windows and a guard dog, a setter Anya used to walk before she got too busy networking with clients. Our daughter, Clara, was 26, working as a nurse in Cork, and called every Sunday like clockwork. Life was comfortable, predictable, secure. Then came that Tuesday morning in September when everything shifted. I was in the kitchen making my usual black coffee and checking the news when her text came through. No good morning, no pleasantries, just a cold message that hit like a sledgehammer to the gut. Need space. On a wine tour in the Loire Valley with my boss. Don't wait up. I stared at that message for a full minute, reading it over and over like the words might rearrange themselves into something less devastating. A wine tour in France with Julian. For how long? Why hadn't she mentioned this before? And what exactly did "don't wait up" mean? I didn't call her, didn't text back immediately like some desperate husband begging for explanations. Instead, I set my coffee mug down carefully on the granite counter and walked to my home office. From the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet, behind old tax returns and insurance policies, I pulled out a manila folder I'd labeled contingency plans 2 years ago. You see, I'm a builder. I plan for everything. Foundation problems, structural issues, weather delays. I always have contingencies. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I'd started preparing for this possibility when Anya began working late 3 nights a week and password protecting her phone. The folder contained printed bank statements, copies of property deeds, contact information for solicitors, and a detailed list of our assets. I'd even researched divorce lawyers, though I'd hoped never to need their services. Call it paranoia or preparation. But 30 years of building teaches you that prevention beats repair every time. I opened my laptop and started making calls. First to Liam O'Connell, a buddy from university who'd become a successful solicitor specializing in asset protection. Then to my accountant, Eliza Weber, who'd handled our books since I started the business. Eli, what's going on? Liam asked when I explained I needed to discuss protecting my assets. Anya's in France with her boss, I said simply. Wine tour. There was a pause. Liam had been married twice, divorced once. He understood the implications. How long has this been building? Liam asked. Couple of years, maybe longer. I just chose to ignore the obvious. Well, let's make sure you're protected. Can you come in this afternoon? By noon, I'd mapped out our strategy. By evening, I'd begun implementing it. And by the time Anya sent her second text, a photo of her and Julian clinking glasses at some vineyard, both looking far too comfortable with each other, I was already 3 steps ahead. Some men fall apart when their world collapses. Others pick up the pieces and build something better. I'd spent my entire career turning empty lots into dream homes. Time to see what I could build from the ruins of a broken marriage. The first call I made was to Ingrid Svensson, Anya's closest friend since college. Most men would avoid their wife's best friend during a crisis. But I had a hunch about Ingrid. She'd been acting strange around Anya lately, shorter conversations, less enthusiasm about their weekly lunch dates, and a guilty look in her eyes whenever I walked into a room where they were talking. Eli, I was wondering when you'd call, Ingrid said before I even explained why I was reaching out. Her voice carried a weight I hadn't heard before. You know about Julian, don't you? I asked directly. Ingrid sighed heavily. I've been losing sleep over this for months. Anya thinks I'm being supportive, but honestly, I can't stand watching her destroy her marriage for some midlife crisis fantasy. How long has it been going on? Physically, probably 6 months. Emotionally, she's been talking about him since he started at her firm 8 months ago. Eli, she's not the same person we used to know. Ingrid explained how Anya had been bragging about expensive dinners Julian paid for, weekend trips disguised as business conferences, and jewelry he'd given her that she kept hidden in her office. The wine tour wasn't spontaneous. They've been planning it for weeks. There's something else, Ingrid continued. Julian has a 17-year-old son named Hugo from his first marriage. The kid's been blackmailing his father. Blackmailing him? Hugo found out about the affair and threatened to tell Julian's ex-wife unless his dad paid for a new scooter and increased his allowance. Julian has been bleeding money trying to keep the kid quiet. This information shifted everything. Julian wasn't just a predator stealing my wife. He was a man being squeezed by his own son and probably seeing Anya as an escape route from his financial problems. Ingrid, would you be willing to document what you've told me? Maybe record some conversations if the opportunity arises? Eli, I've been waiting for you to ask. I'm tired of being an accomplice to this mess. By Thursday morning, I had everything I needed to start dismantling our shared life. Ingrid had sent me screenshots of text messages between her and Anya, including one where my wife complained about my boring routine and how Julian made her feel alive again. The words stung, but they also strengthened my resolve. My solicitor, Liam O'Connell, called at 9:30. Eli, I've reviewed everything you sent over. The good news is your business assets are clearly separate property. The house is more complicated since it's jointly owned, but we can work with that. What about the joint accounts? Here's where it gets interesting, Liam said. You're listed as the primary account holder on 3 of the 4 accounts. Anya is secondary. That gives us some options. Liam explained that I could legally transfer funds from our joint accounts into separate accounts as long as I documented everything properly. It wasn't about hiding money. It was about protecting assets before a potential divorce filing. There's something else, Liam continued. I did some research on Julian Morrow. He's been sued twice by former business partners for breach of contract. His credit rating took a hit last year, and he's currently paying substantial alimony to his ex-wife. This guy isn't the financial catch your wife thinks he is. That afternoon, I drove to our bank and met with a branch manager, Sophia Santos, whom I'd known for 15 years. I explained the situation honestly. My wife is left for an extended trip with another man, and I need to protect our assets. I understand completely, Sophia said. We see this more often than you'd think. Let's move your business accounts and half the joint savings to a new personal account under just your name. Within 2 hours, I'd moved 200,000 euros into accounts Anya couldn't access. I left enough in the joint account to cover her regular expenses for a few weeks, but not enough to fund an extended vacation with her boyfriend. That evening, Clara called from Cork. My daughter had always been perceptive, even as a child. Dad, what's going on with Mom? Clara asked directly. She called me this afternoon talking about finding herself and needing space. It sounded like midlife crisis nonsense. Your mother is in France with her boss, I said simply. Julian Morrow? That sleazy guy from the Christmas party? Dad, please tell me you're not just sitting there taking this. I'm handling it, sweetheart. Don't worry about me. Good, Clara said firmly, because honestly, Mum's been acting selfish for years. You deserve better than this. Her support meant everything. I'd raised a daughter who understood loyalty and integrity. Whatever happened next, I knew Clara would stand by me. Friday brought the expected text. Anya sent a photo of herself and Julian at some upscale restaurant, both looking relaxed and happy. The caption read, "Extending our stay through the weekend, having the time of my life." I stared at that photo for exactly 10 seconds, then made the call that would change everything. Liam, it's Eli. Let's file the papers. You're sure about this? She texted you need space, on a wine tour in France with my boss. You sold the house. emptied the accounts, and left for Portugal. Well, not quite yet, but the first part is already in motion. Liam laughed grimly. I'll have the divorce papers ready by Monday. What about the house? Put it on the market immediately. I want it sold before she gets back. I spent the weekend methodically removing Anya's belongings from our bedroom and packing them neatly in boxes. I wasn't angry or destructive, just efficient. Every designer dress, every piece of jewelry Julian hadn't bought her, every personal item went into labeled containers. Sunday evening, I called my old friend Ricardo in Lisbon. We'd worked together on a construction project 20 years ago, and he'd been inviting me to visit Portugal ever since. Eli, my friend. Ricardo's voice boomed through the phone. What brings you to call? I need a change of scenery, Ricardo. How serious were you about that guest room? Very serious. What happened? My wife decided she needed space to find herself in another man's bed. Ricardo was quiet for a moment. I understand. Come to Lisbon, my friend. We will drink good wine, see beautiful architecture, and remind you what life feels like when you're not walking on eggshells. Monday morning, I received confirmation that our townhouse was listed for sale. The estate agent assured me we'd have offers within a week. The market was hot, and our restored Georgian was exactly what buyers wanted. By Tuesday, I'd booked a one-way ticket to Lisbon, departing the following Monday. Anya was still posting photos from France, completely oblivious to the fact that her comfortable life was being systematically dismantled. I felt no guilt, no second thoughts. She'd made her choice when she chose another man over our marriage. Now she'd live with the consequences of that choice. Anya's key scraped against the lock Sunday night at 11:15. I heard her struggle with the front door from my position in the kitchen where I sat reading a book about Portuguese architecture. She'd probably had a few glasses of wine on the drive back from the airport, celebrating what she thought would be her triumphant return to negotiate a new arrangement. Eli, she called out, her voice carrying that artificially cheerful tone she used when she knew she was in trouble. I'm home. I didn't respond immediately. I let her come find me. I let her see the boxes stacked neatly in the hallway, her belongings sorted and packed with methodical precision. What the hell is this? Anya demanded when she walked into the kitchen and saw me calmly turning pages. Her designer luggage dropped to the floor with a thud. Your things, I said without looking up. I thought, you might want them organized for when you move out. Move out? Eli, we need to talk about this rationally. I know you're upset, but what happened in France was just what, Anya? I finally looked at her. She looked good, I had to admit. Tanned, relaxed, hair professionally styled. Julian had treated her well during their romantic getaway. Just you spending a long weekend with another man while texting me about needing space. It's complicated. Julian and I have a connection, but that doesn't mean, it means exactly what it looks like, I interrupted. You chose him over our marriage. I'm simply accepting your choice. Anya sat down across from me, reaching for my hand. I pulled it away. Eli, please listen to me. Julian understands my ambitions. He sees potential in me that you've never recognized. But I don't want to lose you entirely. Maybe we could arrange something more open, more modern. More modern. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want me to share my wife with your boss? Anya, listen to yourself. Other couples make arrangements. Other couples don't include me. I filed for divorce Friday. The papers will be served tomorrow. The color drained from her face. You filed without even talking to me first. You talked to me. That text from France was all the conversation we needed. Anya stood abruptly, pacing to the window. This is insane. You can't just destroy 32 years of marriage because I needed some time to figure things out. I'm not destroying anything. You did that when you chose Julian over us. I'm just cleaning up the debris. And the house. Why are there estate agent flyers on the counter? Sold. Well, as good as sold. We have 3 offers already. All above asking price. Anya whirled around. You can't sell our house. Actually, I can. Check the deed. It's held in trust under my name. You signed the paperwork during the refinance 5 years ago, remember? You said legal documents bored you. For the first time since she'd walked through the door, Anya looked genuinely frightened. Eli, please. We can work this out. Julian isn't. He's not what I thought he was. Problems in paradise already? I asked. His son Hugo showed up Saturday night demanding money. There was a scene at the restaurant. Julian paid him €2,000 just to leave us alone. Sounds like you picked a winner. Don't be cruel. I made a mistake, okay? I let the excitement go to my head, but we can fix this. I closed my book and stood up. Anya, some things can't be fixed. They can only be ended cleanly or allowed to rot slowly. I'm choosing a clean ending. Where will you go? Portugal. I leave Tuesday morning. Portugal. She looked stunned. For how long? As long as it takes to remember who I am without you. Monday morning brought controlled chaos. The divorce papers were served at Anya's office at 9 sharp, causing enough of a scene that her coworkers would be gossiping for weeks. Meanwhile, I was at the bank finalizing the closure of her joint accounts and transferring the house sale proceeds to my personal account. Ingrid called around noon with an update that made me smile for the first time in days. Eli, you need to hear this, she said, barely containing her laughter. Hugo Moreau just posted on social media about his father's affair, complete with photos he secretly took at restaurants. Julian is finished. What about Anya? Tagged in every post. The whole city knows now. By 3 p.m., Anya had called me 17 times. I answered the 18th call. Eli, please. She was crying now. Julian just fired me. He says I'm a liability to the company. Hugo's posts have gone viral locally. I have nowhere to go. You have your sister's place in Bray. For how long, Eli? I need help. I need my husband. You needed a husband last week. You chose a boyfriend instead. Live with that choice. The bank says our accounts are closed. How am I supposed to survive? The same way Julian will, by figuring it out. You're a smart woman, Anya. You'll land on your feet. Don't do this. Don't leave me with nothing. I'm leaving you with exactly what you brought to this marriage 32 years ago, yourself. That used to be enough for both of us. I hung up and finished packing one suitcase, one carry-on bag, and a folder containing the financial documents that would secure my future. Everything else could be replaced or wasn't worth keeping. Ricardo called that evening to confirm he'd pick me up at Lisbon Airport. My friend, how do you feel? He asked. Free, I said, and realized I meant it. Tuesday morning, I drove to the airport in my old Land Rover, leaving it in long-term parking. Maybe I'd come back for it someday. Maybe I wouldn't. The beauty of burning bridges is that it forces you to find new paths forward. At the gate, I received one final text from Anya. I'm sorry. I love you. Please don't go. I deleted it without responding and boarded the plane to Lisbon. 34,000 feet above the Atlantic. I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Anticipation for tomorrow. Lisbon greeted me with warm October sunshine and the kind of ancient beauty that puts modern problems into perspective. Ricardo met me at the airport with a grin and a bone-crushing hug that reminded me what genuine friendship felt like. My friend Eli, he boomed, taking my luggage. You look like a man who needs wine and perspective, in that order. Ricardo's apartment overlooked the Tagus River, with terracotta rooftops stretching toward the Atlantic. The guest room was simple but comfortable, a bed, a desk, and a window that framed the city like a painting. Rest today. Tomorrow we explore, Ricardo insisted. My wife, Sophia, is cooking dinner. She remembers you from the construction project years ago. That evening, sitting on Ricardo's terrace with a glass of Portuguese red wine, I felt my shoulders relax for the first time in months. The conversation flowed easily. Ricardo's architecture projects, his children now grown and living in Porto, his contentment with a life built on solid foundations rather than flashy appearances. So, tell me about Anya, Ricardo said eventually. I explained the situation without bitterness, just facts. The affair, the divorce, the clean break I'd engineered. Ricardo listened without judgment, occasionally nodding. You did the right thing, he said finally. A man cannot build a future on broken trust. Better to start fresh with good materials. Wednesday morning brought a text from Clara. Dad, Mom's been calling me nonstop. She's staying with Aunt Fiona and wants me to convince you to come home and work things out. I told her, you're exactly where you need to be. I smiled, typing back. Your support means everything. How are you handling all this? Honestly, I'm proud of you for not being a doormat. Mom made her choice. Live your life, Dad. That afternoon, Ricardo took me to meet Isabel Dubois, a local artist who owned a small gallery in Alfama, Lisbon's oldest neighborhood. She was 44, with paint-stained fingers and eyes that held both sadness and strength. Isabel's husband died 3 years ago, Ricardo explained quietly as we walked to her gallery. She understands loss, but also renewal. The gallery was filled with vibrant paintings of Portuguese landscapes and intimate portraits that captured something essential about their subjects. Isabel spoke excellent English, her voice carrying a musical quality that made even ordinary conversation feel like poetry. "You are the Irish builder Ricardo talks about," she said, shaking my hand with surprising firmness. "He says you're starting a new chapter, something like that. Your work is beautiful. It comes from pain transformed into something useful," she said simply. "Perhaps it is what you are doing also." We spent the afternoon walking through Alfama's narrow streets, Isabel pointing out architectural details I would have missed, the way afternoon light hit a weathered doorway, the intricate tile work on a forgotten building. "Your wife," Isabel said as we shared coffee at a small cafe. She did not appreciate what she had. She wanted something different, more exciting. I suppose excitement is overrated. Stability, respect, trust, these are rare gifts. She will learn this too late. That evening, I called my solicitor, Liam, from Ricardo's terrace. The divorce was proceeding smoothly. The house sale had closed, and Anya's attorney had made no serious challenges to the asset division. "She's got a new lawyer now," Liam reported. "Someone cheaper. Apparently, Julian Moreau isn't helping with her legal fees." Any word on Julian? His business partner filed papers to dissolve their company. Hugo's social media campaign destroyed their reputation. Last I heard, Julian moved back to Paris with his tail between his legs. Looking out over Lisbon's ancient hills, I felt a profound sense of rightness about my decision. Some bridges deserve to be burned, especially when they lead nowhere worth going. 2 weeks into my Portuguese adventure, Isabel and I had fallen into a comfortable routine. She'd show me hidden corners of Lisbon. I'd help with minor repairs around her gallery, and we'd talk for hours about art, architecture, and the courage required to rebuild after loss. "You are different from Ricardo's stories," she said one afternoon as I fixed a loose hinge on her gallery door. "Quieter, but stronger than I expected. 32 years of marriage to the wrong woman will teach you to choose your words carefully. And now, what words do you choose? Honest ones, simple ones, true ones." Isabel smiled, an expression that lit up her entire face. "This is why I like talking with you. No performance, just truth." That evening, Clara called with an update that made me laugh out loud. "Dad, you're not going to believe this. Mom started a podcast called Healing After Betrayal. She's positioning herself as the victim of an emotionally unavailable husband. How's that working out for her?" "Terribly. The comment section is brutal. Apparently, Ingrid shared screenshots of Mom's texts about Julian, and someone found all of her social media posts about the affair. The internet is not buying Mom's victim narrative. What is she saying about me specifically? That you were controlling and financially abusive for moving money and selling the house without her consent. But Dad, people aren't stupid. They can see the timeline. You didn't act until after she ran off with her boss. I appreciate you keeping me informed, but don't feel obligated to defend me online. Your mother will have to face the consequences of her choices without making it our problem. I love you, Dad, and I'm proud of how you handled this whole mess." Friday afternoon, Isabel invited me to dinner at her apartment above the gallery. She cooked a traditional Portuguese meal, bacalhau à brás, while I opened a bottle of wine Ricardo had recommended. "This is the first time I have cooked for a man since Miguel died," she said, her voice carrying a note of vulnerability I hadn't heard before. "Are you comfortable with that?" "With you? Yes. You do not expect anything. You do not demand anything. You simply are present." Over dinner, she told me about her marriage to Miguel, an architect who died suddenly of a heart attack. They'd been planning to start a family, to travel together, to grow old in the house he was designing for them. Grief teaches you what matters, she said. Love, yes, but also respect, partnership, shared vision for the future. Your wife had all of these things and threw them away for excitement. And you had them and lost them to fate. Yes, but fate brought you to Ricardo, and Ricardo brought you to me. Perhaps this is not coincidence. That night, walking back to Ricardo's apartment along the river, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, genuine happiness. Not the forced contentment of a failing marriage, but the quiet joy of authentic connection with someone who valued the same things I did. My phone buzzed with a text from Ingrid. Eli, Anya's podcast episode about you backfired spectacularly. She's getting roasted online. Thought you should know people. See through her lies. I deleted the message without responding. Anya's online humiliation was her own making, not my concern. I had more important things to focus on, like the beautiful woman who'd cooked dinner for me and the ancient city that was beginning to feel like home. 6 months later, I stood in Isabel's gallery, watching her hang paintings for her first major exhibition since Miguel's death. The pieces told a story of renewal, dark, stormy canvases gradually giving way to warm, hopeful colors that captured Portugal's golden light. You inspired these, she said, adjusting the frame on a painting of sunrise over the Tagus River. Not because you rescued me, but because you showed me that starting over does not mean forgetting everything that came before. My divorce had been finalized in February. Anya received her share of the house proceeds, enough to rent a small apartment and start over, but nothing close to the lifestyle she'd imagined with Julian. Her podcast experiment had ended in humiliation, and last I heard from Clara, she was working at a small PR firm in Dublin for half her previous salary. She asks about you sometimes, Clara had told me during our weekly video call. I think she finally realizes what she lost. And what do you tell her? That you're happy, that you're building something real with someone who appreciates what she threw away. I'd used the Swiss account funds to invest in Isabel's gallery expansion and started a small architectural consultation business focusing on restoration projects. Lisbon was full of beautiful old buildings that needed careful hands to bring them back to life. Work that felt meaningful in ways my Dublin projects never had. The exhibition opening drew a respectable crowd. Ricardo and Sophia mingled with local artists and collectors, while I helped Isabel manage the evening with quiet efficiency. She'd asked me to stay in the background, but her gratitude was evident every time our eyes met across the room. You're different from 6 months ago, Ricardo observed as we watched Isabel discuss her work with a potential buyer. Calmer, more centered. Portugal agrees with me. And Isabel, she reminds me what partnership looks like when both people are whole individuals first. Will you stay permanently? I applied for residency last month. My solicitor says it should be approved by summer. That night, Isabel and I walked home along the river, her hand in mine as we talked about the evening's success. 3 paintings had sold, including the sunrise piece that had started her journey back to creating. Miguel would be happy, she said quietly. He always believed art should celebrate life, not just document pain. You've honored his memory by refusing to stay trapped in grief. And you have honored your marriage by refusing to stay trapped in betrayal. We both chose to build rather than destroy. At her apartment, she poured wine while I lit the fireplace. The domestic routine felt natural, comfortable. 2 people who'd learned to appreciate simple pleasures after surviving complex pain. Elias, she said, using my full name as she did during serious conversations. I have been thinking about the future. What about it? I would like you to move in. Not because I need rescue or you need shelter, but because we have built something worth nurturing. Looking into her eyes, honest, hopeful, unafraid, I realized how far I'd traveled from that morning when Anya's text had shattered my comfortable illusions. Some journeys require burning bridges to force yourself forward. Others require the courage to build new ones. Yes, I said simply. I like that very much. 1 year after leaving Dublin, I woke up in Isabel's bed to the sound of church bells and the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. She had risen early to work in her studio, as was her habit, leaving me to enjoy the quiet morning ritual we'd established. The apartment felt like home in ways my Georgian house never had. Every object had meaning. Every space served a purpose. We combined our lives carefully, thoughtfully, keeping what mattered and letting go of what didn't. My phone showed a message from Clara. Dad, amazing news. I'm engaged. Can you and Isabel come to Cork for the wedding in June? I can't wait for you to meet James properly. I smiled, typing back congratulations and assurances that we'd be there. Isabel emerged from her studio with paint in her hair and excitement in her eyes. Good news from Clara? She asked, reading my expression. She's engaged. Wants us both at the wedding. Of course, we will go. I'm excited to meet your daughter properly. Over breakfast, we discussed our travel plans and the progress on our joint business venture. I'd been helping her expand the gallery while she'd encouraged my return to architectural design. Together, we'd created something neither of us could have built alone. Any word from Anya? Isabel asked, buttering her toast. Clara says she's seeing someone new, a widower she met at grief counseling. Grief counseling? Apparently, she's finally dealing with the reality of her choices. Losing Julian, the job, the house. It forced her to confront some hard truths about herself. Isabel nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps this is good. Everyone deserves the chance to grow, even from their own mistakes. That afternoon, I met with a client about restoring a 16th-century monastery outside Sintra. The project would take 2 years and require innovative solutions to preserve historical integrity while adding modern functionality. It was exactly the kind of work I'd dreamed of during those sterile years building McMansions for tech executives. Evening found us at Ricardo and Sophia's for dinner, a weekly tradition that had become the cornerstone of our social life. The conversation flowed between Portuguese and English, covering everything from politics to poetry to the best way to prepare pastéis de nata. You two look disgustingly happy, Sophia teased as we prepared to leave. Happiness is easier when you stop trying to change each other and start supporting each other's growth, I replied. Walking home through Alfama's narrow streets, Isabel stopped at the overlook where we'd first really talked about our losses and hopes. Do you ever regret leaving Dublin? She asked. Never. That life was built on compromise and accommodation. This life is built on choice and authenticity. Even when it was difficult, even when you had to start over completely, especially then, starting over forced me to decide who I actually wanted to be instead of who I thought I should be. She leaned against me, both of us looking out over the city lights, reflecting on the Tagus. I am grateful Anya was foolish enough to let you go. Her loss, I said, meaning it completely. Her choice led to my freedom. Later that night, as Isabel slept beside me, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. A year ago, I'd been a man reacting to betrayal. Now, I was a man building a future based on mutual respect, shared values, and authentic love. Some stories end with revenge or reconciliation. This one ended with something better, renewal. Anya had given me an unexpected gift when she chose Julian over our marriage. She'd forced me to discover that I was capable of much more than I'd ever imagined. In Portugal, surrounded by ancient beauty and genuine love, I'd finally learned the difference between existing and living. It had been worth every difficult step of the journey.